I was not supposed to be involved in anything important that day. My job aboard the ship was the kind that never ended up in official reports. Reach things that were too high, lift crates that were too awkward for tentacles, explain for the 100th time that humans didn't molt, and reassure at least 3 species a week that no, my teeth were not a threat display. I was background noise with a heartbeat. Safe. Forgettable. That was the plan. She was the opposite of that. She moved through the corridor like gravity made special allowances for her. Tall, smooth, luminous in a way that wasn't flashy but impossible to ignore. Other species leaned away when she passed, not out of fear, but respect. I'd been told her kind valued composure above all else. No wasted motion. No wasted words. They were famous for their restraint, which apparently included a near-religious attitude toward bodily processes humans preferred not to think about too much. Which is why, when she asked me for help reaching something on a storage rack, I didn't think it would end my peaceful, invisible existence. The request itself was innocent. A sealed nutrient container had been placed on a shelf clearly designed by someone with 6-foot arms. I stepped up, grabbed it, and handed it down. Our fingers brushed for maybe half a second. She froze. I didn't notice. I was more focused on not dropping the container on her foot and causing an interspecies incident report. Later, during the communal meal cycle, that same container appeared on the table between us. It pulsed faintly, like a lazy heartbeat. She noticed me looking and tilted her head, a gesture I'd learned meant curiosity rather than challenge. "It is compatible," she said, voice calm, melodic, impossible to read. "You may share." I probably should have asked what it was. Instead, I shrugged and did what humans do best, trusted the fact that no one had died yet. It tasted like warm citrus and minerals, with a texture somewhere between jelly and bread dough. Pleasant. Comforting, even. I joked that it was better than most of the ship rations. She watched me closely as I ate, eyes reflecting the soft light of the table. That should have been my first clue. Nothing dramatic happened right away. No alarms. No screaming medics. No sudden urge to molt, glow, or join a hive mind. I finished my portion, wiped my hands, and went back to my duties. If anything, I felt good. Relaxed. Centered. Like I'd just eaten a meal my body had been quietly craving for years. Hours later, she found me alone in a quiet corridor near the observation deck. She stood very close. Close enough that I could feel a faint warmth radiating from her, like standing near sun-warmed stone. She looked at me for a long moment, expression unreadable, and then did something that made my brain completely derail. She tapped her belly. Once. Deliberate. Meaningful. Then she met my eyes and said a single word. Yours. The universe did not explode. The ship did not lurch. But inside my head, every alarm known to mankind went off at once. Yours. I replayed the word over and over, trying to slot it into something sane. Ownership? Claim? Responsibility? Had I just been informed, very calmly, that I was now legally, biologically, or spiritually involved in something I did not sign up for? My mind leapt to the worst possible conclusions because human brains are excellent at that. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I started, then stopped, because I genuinely had no idea what sentence was supposed to follow that word. She seemed satisfied with my reaction. Or lack of one. Her posture relaxed, just slightly, as if something had settled into place. She stepped back, inclining her head in what I recognized as a respectful gesture, and walked away without another word. I stood there, staring after her, heart pounding so hard I was pretty sure nearby species could hear it. I did what any reasonable human would do in that situation. I panicked silently and went to check the ship's translation logs. The problem with universal translators is that they're technically accurate and emotionally useless. The word she'd used did not have a clean equivalent. It branched. Genetic imprint. Responsibility marker. Declared association. Ownership, but not in the way humans mean it. More like, acknowledged origin? My stomach dropped. Crew members started looking at me differently almost immediately. Long glances. Curious tilts of the head. One of the engineers clapped me on the shoulder and made a clicking sound that I was fairly sure meant congratulations. Someone else offered me a nutrient drink. For strength. I tried to laugh it off, but no one laughed with me. When I passed her again later, she met my gaze and smiled. Just a little. Warm. Confident. As if everything was proceeding exactly as expected. I wanted to ask questions. So many questions. But every time I got close, my courage evaporated. What if I was wrong? What if asking made it worse? What if the answer involved paperwork? I helped someone else reach a high shelf and wondered, not for the first time, how my life had gone so wildly off script without me doing anything dramatic at all. All I'd done was share lunch. And somewhere between that bite of alien nutrient and that single, devastating word, I had apparently become something. Something everyone else already seemed to understand. Something I absolutely did not. By the next meal cycle, I had been congratulated 17 times, offered 3 ceremonial drinks I couldn't pronounce, and gently but firmly ushered out of a corridor by a 4-armed maintenance officer who said I should be resting. Resting from what, exactly, no one would clarify. Every time I tried to explain that there had been a misunderstanding, the listener would nod sympathetically in the way people do when they think you're being humble, or are still in shock. Humans, it turned out, were terrible at looking innocently confused in a multicultural environment. The rumors spread faster than any fire drill I'd ever seen. I caught fragments of conversation drifting through the air like debris. Declared. Bonded. So calm about it. Only a human. One particularly enthusiastic xenobiologist bowed slightly when I passed and said something that translated loosely to, "May your legacy thrive." I choked on my water. I finally tracked her down in the medical wing, sitting serenely on an examination platform while 2 very nervous doctors hovered around her. She looked perfectly comfortable. Radiant even. When she saw me, her eyes softened, and that same small smile returned, like she was pleased I'd shown up at all. "Good," she said. "You are present." "Yes," I said quickly. "I am very present." "About that." The doctors glanced between us with undisguised fascination. One of them gestured to a display, lines of data scrolling past far too quickly for me to understand. "There is no internal distress," the doctor said slowly, clearly baffled. "No rejection response. No immune escalation. Her internal systems are calm." They looked at me like I'd personally offended several textbooks. "That's because I'm not pregnant," she said gently, as if explaining something obvious to a child. I felt my knees almost give out with relief. "Oh, thank God." The doctor stiffened. "Not pregnant?" one echoed. She tilted her head. "Of course not. That would be biologically premature." The room went very quiet. "Then why?" the doctor asked carefully. "Was a responsibility marker declared?" She tapped her belly again, the same deliberate motion as before. My pulse spiked despite myself. "The symbiont," she said. It anchored. Every eye turned to me. I stared back. "The what?" They brought up a projection of the thing we'd eaten. The harmless-looking nutrient organism. Apparently not so harmless. During digestion, it had briefly bonded to the nearest compatible system to stabilize itself before detaching. In her species, that process triggered immediate panic responses, medical lockdowns, and often ritual apologies. In humans, according to the data, it did nothing. No alarms. No rejection. No stress hormones. My body had apparently gone, "Sure, that's fine," and carried on with its day. The doctors were unsettled in a way I found deeply unfair. "Your biology accepted temporary symbiosis without distress," one said slowly. "You experienced no fear response. No territorial reaction." "I ate it," I said weakly. "I didn't adopt it." She watched me with open fascination. "You did not feel threatened." "I felt hungry." That seemed to impress her more than anything else I'd said so far. The symbiont had already detached, its purpose complete. No lasting effects. No offspring. No obligation, medically speaking. The room exhaled as one. I laughed a little too hard, the tension draining out of me. So, I said, spreading my hands, simple misunderstanding. We can all relax. No one relaxed. The doctor hesitated. The biological issue is resolved, they said. The declaration is not. I looked at her. She met my gaze calmly. You said yours? I said carefully. Everyone seems to think that means something permanent. It does, she replied. I meant it. My stomach flipped again, but this time it wasn't panic. Not entirely. She explained then, patiently, that her people used the declaration not only for reproduction, but for trust. For responsibility willingly acknowledged. The symbiont had anchored because she had felt safe. Because she had chosen proximity. The word had marked that choice. And you did not recoil, she added softly. You did not flee. That matters. I ran a hand through my hair. Where I'm from, people usually talk first. She considered that. You are talking now. Around us, the medical staff quietly pretended not to listen while very obviously listening. I didn't mean to start anything, I said. I just helped you reach a shelf. Her lips curved upward. Yes, she said. That is how it began. The announcement went out later that day. Official clarification. No offspring. No emergency. No hazard. The crew reacted with mixed disappointment and confusion. Some congratulated me anyway, insisting the outcome was still impressive. Someone had already started a betting pool about how long the association would last. I should have been mortified. Instead, as I walked beside her down the corridor, our shoulders nearly touching, I found myself laughing. Really laughing. The absurdity of it all. The way one shared meal and a calm human digestive system had turned into a cultural event. She glanced at me, eyes warm. You are still acceptable, she said. That's good to know, I replied. And for the first time since that word had been spoken, I didn't feel like running. After the medical wing incident, it became impossible to pretend nothing had changed. The ship didn't explode. The crew eventually stopped congratulating me every time I passed, but there was a subtle shift in the way people looked at us, at me. Like I'd stepped sideways into a role I hadn't auditioned for and everyone else had already read the script. She noticed it too. We started spending time together not because anyone ordered it, but because either of us quite knew how not to. Shared corridors turned into shared pauses. Brief exchanges stretched into conversations. It was all technically innocent, which somehow made it more dangerous. There was no dramatic line I could point to and say, that's where this crossed into something else. One cycle, we sat near the observation window watching a distant star swell and contract as the ship adjusted its course. The silence wasn't awkward. That alone felt significant. You are unsettled, she said at last. I snorted softly. That obvious? To me, she replied. You laugh when uncertain. Your shoulders rise. Your pulse increases. Fantastic, I muttered. My entire species is emotionally transparent. She tilted her head. Not transparent. Expressive. It is reassuring. I glanced at her. About that word you used. Yours. I think I need to understand it better, before my brain fills in the blanks again. She folded her hands in her lap, posture composed, but there was a tension there I hadn't seen before. This mattered to her. A lot. In my language, she began. The word marks origin, yes. But also acceptance of outcome. It means you do not deny connection once formed. That's a lot for one word, I said. She smiled faintly. You have many words for love. We have fewer, but heavier. That landed harder than I expected. She explained that among her people, most bonds were cautious. Proximity was negotiated. Contact was deliberate. Risk was minimized. To invite responsibility without panic, to accept something unknown and not immediately reject it, was rare. The symbiont had merely revealed what was already there. You stayed, she said quietly. Even when you were afraid. I didn't know running was an option, I admitted. You always have the option, she replied. You simply chose differently. I stared out at the stars, feeling suddenly very small and very seen. Where I come from, I said, responsibility usually comes with a lot of paperwork, and at least 3 warnings. She gave a soft, musical sound that I was starting to recognize as laughter. Your kind is strange. That's what everyone keeps telling me. There was a pause, then she asked, do you regret it? The question caught me off guard. I searched myself honestly. The panic had faded. The embarrassment lingered, sure. But underneath it all was something unexpected. Curiosity. Warmth. The feeling that I was standing at the edge of something rather than trapped inside it. No, I said slowly. I don't think I do. Her shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. Relief, carefully contained. She admitted then that the declaration had been impulsive. That she'd felt something shift when I'd helped her earlier, not the act itself, but the ease of it. No hesitation. No expectation of reward. Humans, she said, were reckless in a way her people found disarming. You did not see me as fragile, she said. Or sacred. Or forbidden. You saw a problem and solved it. I grab things, I said. It's kind of my thing. That, she replied, eyes bright, is precisely the problem. Word of our continued association spread anyway. A few crew members placed bets. Someone offered me advice on cross-species courtship that I did not ask for. Through it all, she remained composed, though I noticed she stood closer to me than she used to. Close enough that when the ship vibrated, our arms brushed. Each time, either of us moved away. Eventually, the topic of the symbiont came up again. It would fully detach soon, she explained. No trace left behind. The biological excuse for everything that had happened would vanish. And then? I asked. And then, she said, meeting my eyes, the declaration remains only as meaning, not obligation. I exhaled, a tension I hadn't realized I was carrying loosening. So I'm not trapped. No, she said firmly. You are chosen. That is different. The words sent a strange warmth through my chest. Humans weren't used to being chosen for calm, or steadiness, or the ability to not panic when something unexpected latched onto them. We sat there for a long time after that, not touching, not speaking, just existing in the same space. It felt intimate in a way that had nothing to do with bodies and everything to do with trust. When we finally stood to leave, she hesitated. Then, very deliberately, she reached out and took my hand. Just my hand. You may withdraw, she said softly. I looked down at our joined fingers. At how normal it felt. How right. I think, I said, smiling despite myself, I'd like to see where this goes. Her answering smile was brighter than the stars outside the window. And somewhere deep inside me, the last of the panic gave way to something else entirely. By the time the symbiont finally detached, half the ship was emotionally invested in the outcome. I only knew it had happened because a medical notice pinged my console with the kind of disappointment usually reserved for cancelled holidays. No complications. No residual bonding. No remarkable data spike. Just a neat little summary stating that the organism had completed its cycle and moved on, apparently satisfied with its brief, drama-filled visit. I felt fine. Exactly the same, actually. No hollow feeling. No loss. Which, according to the footnotes, was not the expected reaction. She took the news with characteristic composure. Too much composure, if I was being honest. I watched her read the same notice, her expression calm, controlled, and for the first time since I'd known her, slightly guarded. So that's it, I said, attempting casual and probably failing. Crisis officially over. Yes, she replied. The biological justification has ended. There it was. Justification. We walked together in silence for a bit, the ship's low hum filling the space between us. Crew members still glanced our way, curious, expectant, clearly waiting to see if the story would stick the landing or fizzle out. She stopped suddenly, turned to face me, studied my expression the way she always did, like she was reading something written in a language only she understood. Then she tapped her belly again. Once. Deliberate. Met my eyes. Yours. I burst out laughing. Not because it was funny, though it was, but because this time, I finally understood it. No panic surged through me. No mental spirals about obligation or alien courts or surprise responsibilities. Just warmth. Amusement. Affection. You know, I said, still smiling. You can't keep doing that. People are going to think we're starting a trend. Her eyes gleamed. I am aware. That word still causes paperwork, I added. And at least one betting pool. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her warmth again. I am not invoking biology, she said quietly. Only meaning. I sobered, just a little. And what does it mean now? She took her time answering. In her culture, words were never wasted. It means I choose continued proximity, she said. Shared time. Mutual consideration. Without compulsion. I nodded. In my culture, we call that seeing where things go. She considered the phrase. Humans have many inefficient expressions. True, I admitted. But we're very good at improvising. That earned me a soft laugh. Not restrained this time. Open. Real. The ship's council released their final assessment a cycle later. Humans, it concluded, possessed an unusually adaptable physiology. Temporary symbiosis registered as a non-event. Emotional responses trended toward curiosity rather than fear. The official recommendation suggested humans be classified as low-risk integration partners. Unofficially, the galaxy started paying closer attention. I heard whispers from xenobiologists, diplomats, even traders. Species that had once approached humans cautiously now seemed intrigued. If we could accept the unknown without panic, what else could we handle? The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd done nothing heroic. I hadn't fought anything. I hadn't saved the world. I'd eaten lunch and not freaked out about it. Apparently, that was enough. As for us, things settled into something comfortable and strange and undeniably real. We shared meals, carefully vetted ones, now. We talked. We argued mildly about music frequencies and whether humans really needed that many pillows. She asked questions about my home. I asked about hers. No declarations. No dramatic gestures. Until one day, a new crew member brushed past me in a crowded corridor. The alien froze instantly, eyes wide, hands hovering near their torso in obvious alarm. Medical alerts chirped from their wrist device. I am so sorry, they said rapidly. I did not mean to. Are you harmed? I looked down at myself. Then back up. Nope. All good. They stared. You are calm. Yeah, I said. It's kind of our thing. From across the corridor, she watched the exchange, amusement dancing openly in her eyes. When the startled crew member scurried away, she approached, leaning in just enough for only me to hear. You see? She murmured. Dangerously compatible. I groaned. Please don't put that in an official report. She smiled, radiant and unrestrained. Too late. Later, as we stood together by the observation window again, stars stretching endlessly before us, she slipped her hand into mine. This time, there was no formal offer to withdraw. No test. Just certainty. You are not bound, she said softly. You may still leave. I squeezed her hand gently. I know. And yet? And yet, I replied. I think I'll stay. She rested her head lightly against my shoulder, a gesture that would have scandalized her people a few cycles ago. I felt no fear. No pressure. Just the quiet understanding that sometimes the most profound connections start with something small. A shared meal. A calm reaction. A single word that means far more than it seems. The galaxy would debate humans for years. Study us. Classify us. Try to figure out how a species so reckless could also be so steady. Me? I'd already learned the answer. We don't panic. We choose.